if he does do that, what does that mean? What does it tell you? But does he stand up to it? Can he survive that? Right? As a god, as your god, can Batman survive that?
This is not Batman. Ding, 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 ding. Here we go again. Zack Snyder, finally on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast. That's right. I knew that Zack Snyder was a fan of Joe Rogan's in the Joe Rogan Experience. Kind of funny because then I'm like, oh wow, I share a guest with Joe Rogan now. Look at me go, Mom. And I get it, guys. Not everybody likes Joe Rogan, and some people think he's like some kind of Nazi white supremacist or whatever. Those are just the people that don't actually listen to Joe Rogan, and they just read the headlines and read all the media stuff. And then, of course, they'll go on Twitter and complain about the media lies. And I'm just like, okay. You don't like Joe Rogan, that's perfectly fine. But I am a fan of the podcast, and I listen to it weekly, and it's always got some interesting guests and comedians and stuff like that. But Zack Snyder showing up yesterday was like, whoa, it finally happened, and I thought that was cool. So obviously today there's a lot of headlines out there, a lot of BS out there when it comes to these headlines, a lot of bad takes as well. And of course we got that one in particular thing when it comes to Batman that is always like the hot button issue when it comes to Twitter and all the bad takes. And it seems like every 6 to 8 weeks we are always talking about that certain issue. But I wanted to go over just a couple of things. I'm not going to go over the whole thing, but just some things that stuck out, and of course the controversial stuff. So first off, Netflix. And yes, he's explained it before in interviews, but I think right here he explains it just a little bit better when it comes to director's cuts and how all that was kind of working and how they built it in to how they were going to be marketing this movie.
Because normally when I do this director's cuts, which is a thing now I'm weirdly famous for, the director's cuts were always an answer to a thing that the studio made me do, right? Like, here's my movie. They're like, yeah, we really want you to cut these parts out because they're not cool. They're like, the movie's too long or the movie's too violent or whatever. And I would be like, wow, really? Because I really think that's kind of the why of the movie. And they'd be like, no, it's really important. The focus groups told us that they don't like that, so take it out. So I'd take it out, but then I'd go I'd go over to home video right across the street, and I'd be like, hey, guys, you want another movie to release? Because I got the shit. And they'd be like, absolutely, whatever you say. Because at that time, there was a huge market for directors. It gave them a second kick at the can in home video, right? So they would be like, that's so cool. We get a whole other movie to market that never before seen footage. Right. It just feels like a cool thing. And so that was how I've always done my director's cuts, always as a response to what the studio was telling me couldn't be in the movie. Because I never planned. I would always go into it bright-eyed, oh, everyone's going to love this. Including, the studio, when you see my cut, you're going to think it's amazing. And they would look at it and go bro, this is too much. And so that's where my director's cuts kind of as a practice were born. It was born out of that, me needing to show the world what I intended originally. And so, by the time now that I've got to Netflix with this Rebel Moon movie and my sort of the mythology around my director's cuts was kind of a thing, especially with Justice League, as you can imagine. They were like, you know what? Why don't we do a director's cut as part of the process rather than as a response to it?
I like his words right there. He's using different words. Again, this is a different medium where he's not on a time limit. It's different. So I am so curious. I'm so curious, and I'm sure everybody is, and people are still going to just hate the fact that they're doing the PG-13 cuts, even though it does make sense in this new era of streaming. It does. I'm just like, man, how much darker, and of course, always comparing it to heavy metal, but I'm like, how much darker and just, sexy and all this. I mean, I'm so curious. I'm half chubbed right now. And time will tell whether this marketing strategy works or not. I mean, it could just be blown away, that people could be blown away. But then, of course, there was this wasn't the controversial part. This is just talking about the way that they're doing the strategy here. But the controversial part is about, the rough numbers and seeing the numbers of the eyeballs and how they break it down. And then, of course, he compared it to ticket sales and saying that, it could have been bigger than Barbie.
You think about like Netflix, for instance, where like you push a button and like, Rebel Moon, right? The zeitgeist is crazy because like Rebel Moon, so say right now there's like, it's like almost 90 million views, right? 90 million people, 90 million starts. So, or 90 million accounts said, turned it on, okay?
Right.
Give or take. They assume 2 viewers per screening, right? That's the kind of math. So you think if that movie was in the theater as a distribution model, so that's 160 million account or people supposedly watching based on that math. So 160 million people at $10 a ticket would be what is that math? I don't know. 160 million times 10. That's 1.6 billion. So like you look at the view numbers, you can use that rough, so more people probably saw Rebel Moon than saw Barbie in the theater, right? That's how crazy Netflix, that's the distribution model that they've set up, Now
I get the pushback because to me, when somebody actually goes out, pays for a ticket, because it's not cheap anymore, especially if you have family, you go pay for a ticket, you're very much engaged on seeing this movie. When you watch a movie on Netflix, when you see a movie, and even if you watch it just for a little bit, you kind of just forget about it and go on to the next thing. Most of it you forget about. So I was kind of like, okay, I get what he's trying to say right there, that the fact that if you're going to compare it to the distribution, the box office, okay, if there's 2 people, 2 accounts or whatever the hell that are watching this, you times that, and it's like, okay, so he was just kind of just breaking it down like that. Comparing it to Barbie, I could see why people like it, well, especially if they take it out of context, because people don't do that anymore. They looked at it like, wow, he said it would have been bigger than Barbie. It's like, no, not necessarily, but he was just kind of doing the comparison model, and maybe, he didn't exactly explain it in the best way by comparing it to the biggest movie of last year and comparing it to ticket sales, because it's not exactly the same, but he's just talking about eyeballs. Like you see your more people are going to see your movie when it's on there like that. And it's understandable because again, we're in the streaming era. And then we talk about the most controversial parts of the whole thing when it comes to Batman not killing.
For those guys, it's not just a movie, and so you have to, on some level, you have to acknowledge that this is their religion, and they feel strongly about it. And by the way, the truth is, it's my religion too, So I tend to get in trouble because of I do take a deconstructivist point of view because of Dark Knight Returns, because of Watchmen. If you've read those 2 comics, it's hard to go back. You want to, and it's because I care that I want to take them apart. Like I want Batman, like people are always like, well, Batman can't kill, right? So Batman can't kill is canon. And I'm like, okay, well, the first thing I want to do when you say that is I want to see what happens. And they go like, well, don't put him in a situation where he has to kill someone. I'm like, well, that's just like, you're protecting your God in a weird way, right? You're making your God irrelevant if he can't be in that situation. He has to now deal with that.
Yeah.
If he does do that, what does that mean? What does it tell you? But does he stand up to it? Can he survive that? Right? As a God, as your God, can Batman survive that?
I saw a headline that says Zack Snyder thinks Batman would be irrelevant if he doesn't kill. That is, of course, not what he said. He did not say he'd be irrelevant, but he'd be irrelevant if you don't challenge him. Don't challenge this character that is this like God, which of course they freaked out about that too. He called Batman a God. It's like, no, he said that this is like a religion to people, which it absolutely is, and it gets tribal. So that's why he said he was using it. He wasn't being serious about it. Like Batman is a God, but he's a God. He's a God figure, of course, when it comes to obviously the books and the movies and all kinds of content. But no, he didn't say like he'd be irrelevant, but it's just like, okay, if you are saying like, no, man, I'm like, Batman, no, he doesn't kill. He's got a moral code. Yeah, but what if we decide for him to break that moral code? This is not Batman. Ding, 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 ding. That might as well have come out of Alfred's fucking mouth. Everything Alfred says, pretty much, in this movie, he's going, you're off your rocker. What are you doing? This is not you. And he keeps on saying stuff and challenging Bruce. And Bruce is just like, yeah, I don't care. This is it. This is what I'm doing. This is me now. We've always been criminals, blah, 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 blah. It's like, yes, pick a line from the movie.
Well, there's a new kind of mean in him. He is angry. And he's hunting.
You don't like that one? How about a shorter line?
New rules.
Hey, that explains everything you need to know about Snyder's Batman and BVS, okay? And what 2 words do they both have in common? New! The only thing missing is a Commissioner Gordon also stating that, hey, dude, what in the fuck is wrong with you? It's part of the story. It's part of the narrative. Okay, can we agree to that? If you don't like it, that's fine. But apparently you like it when Batman straps some dynamite to a big guy and punches him into a sewer. Because that fit the story that was totally relevant to Batman Returns' story with the Penguin and Catwoman, and except it wasn't, and it was cartoonish and it was kind of ridiculous, but again, it doesn't ruin Batman Returns for me. I also love it when he talks about the whole Dark Knight Returns thing, bursting through the wall and, of course, holding the gun to KGB and then shooting him and he blows up and blah, 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 and how he just says, like, I believe you. Because he does believe that, hey, I'm going to torture, so what else is Batman going to do? Just try to throw a quick batarang or something, shoot out of his suit to hit him and knock him out? No, he's just going to be like, no, you're fucked, you're done. I'm killing you, and that's the end of story, and that's what I need to do to get the job done. And yes, I'm off my rocker, and normally I'd be like, if I had my head straight, I'd be like, yeah, maybe I would just do something crafty like that. But in this situation, no, the stakes were super, super, super high. You don't like Snyder, you don't like Snyder's Batman, that's fine. Okay, but stop pissing in the Cheerios of the people that actually appreciate this kind of deconstruction of this godlike character. Not an actual god. There's also a headline that says, like, Batman has sex to forget. I saw that one too, and I'm like, well, first off, he said Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne fucks to forget, and it's a term that is very much that people do that. I mean, he's also sucking down wine and painkillers. Okay, we got a 20-year Batman who's old and grizzled, hurting, and is damaged, completely damaged. So yes, he needs to numb that pain. He's gotten to the point where he's looking to numb the pain with alcohol, painkillers, and of course getting some fucking strange. That scene where he wakes up and he takes some painkillers, sips some wine, and walks out to the window, and he's got a girl in his bed right there because, yeah, he wants to numb the pain for a little bit, because guess what? The demons just come right back. He can't sleep all that well, and that's what that scene right there is showing you. Zack does talk about the fans and, of course, achieving the fact that, hey, what happened, obviously, back when they were filming it, and the tragedy that happened, and then, of course, the fans coming together and raising money and getting this thing out.
Because I lost my daughter over that. She, once at the post side of Justice League, I lost my daughter to suicide, and, I left the movie famously, and then the movie went on, and then later we were able to, finish the movie sort of in the way that we had always hoped. And just watching this, actually, it started me thinking about, what the movies mean, what is their legacy, what are they, and if they can do, on one hand, they are the moments you see, for me, Dr. Manhattan, Leonidas, whatever it is, but then on the other hand, there's this other narrative outside of the stories, what I was experiencing, and what made me think of it is just like what I was going through on that day when we filmed it, like what I was struggling with, what I was trying to deal with, is real. That's hard stuff. That was just life being lumpy for us, just trying to make a movie, living in Canada, being away from the kids, just all that struggle. And then it's cool when, it's been cool for me that when the fandom and the movie, like in the case of Justice League, they lined up, where these people were like, no, we're not gonna, there's a movie out there that we want to see. And it's around a struggle that we had as a family, and all of it sort of came together. I always say, people are like, the fandom was toxic or whatever. They were like, They were so angry to get the cut that they were like, I go, also, they literally, people's lives were saved by the money that those kids raised. Like literal, like lives, real tangible lives were saved by that money. That those kids that you called, that you would say are these toxic fans, they're also responsible for the saving of lives. And that's just real. You have to acknowledge it, because if you don't, like, you in some ways, the legacy that they were able to create is like dismissed. And I won't, I can't.
You could feel the warmth in his heart when he was talking right there. You could really feel that. And he does make sense, because a lot of people want him to just always call out the toxic fans, call out the toxic fans. But he's not going to do that, because it's always a loud minority. Anytime there's toxicity in a fandom or with anything, it's always a loud minority. It's never the majority. It's never the majority, no matter what anybody says. And if somebody does say it's the majority, that's hyperbole bullshit, and get the fuck out of here with all that. It sucks that there is that loud minority. It does. But you can't just use that to negate this. This is a super positive. Millions of dollars, lives saved. You can't, just because of this, get rid of this. Okay? So that's what he was trying to emphasize right there. It's always a loud minority. Okay? They can call out their bullshit, and I have many times, but we always got to show this right here. And also, the fact of the matter is, like, even though that these people suck, they've also contributed to this positive right here too, which, you know, that's just the way it is right there. But there you go, guys. That's all I wanted to talk about when it came to this. I could do a whole 3-hour stream breaking this down and talk about everything. I mean, they talked about, I didn't know that he was actually going to direct I Am Legend at one point. He mentioned that right at the start. And of course, they did a lot of 300 talk and Watchmen talk. There's a lot of things so watch it if you haven't already. And, you know, let me know your thoughts about all this down below. Share the video, like, of course, subscribe, do all that. You want to support the channel? You got the Patreon and the membership, do all that. See you guys, I guess, tonight, because I'll probably be posting this on Friday. See you guys tonight on the Vodka stream. All right, love you. Talk to you later.